Mr. Rapporteur, Andrew Dawson, you have a report on the use of language by local and regional authorities. What's the main objective of this report?
Well, as you can well appreciate, languages and use of languages is often very much tied up with nations, nationhood, nationality, and it can be a source of friction. Very much can be a source of friction. What we're trying to do is to take languages outside that context and take them to the very local level and talk about the provision of services to people. Now, as you well imagine, people can understand and participate more in democracy if democracy is addressing them in their own languages. If, for example, you need medical services, you would rather receive the medical services in your mother tongue, in the language which you understand. Now, we appreciate that in many, many countries, the use of particular languages is very, very difficult, and we want to move away from that. And we don't want to talk nations, nationalities, we just want to talk about the provision of services to people locally. And one of the centre points of this particular report is the idea of letting local authorities themselves do an assessment, assess their own communities to decide what languages they need to speak and provide services in. And there's plenty of anecdotal evidence across Europe that really demonstrates there's a huge problem here. I was very fortunate to go to Finland and spend a lot of time in Finland. And the Finnish constitution is great because it supports many, many languages in many different ways. But notwithstanding the bilingualism, for example, of Helsinki, they're speaking Finnish and Swedish, the native Swedish speakers struggle to get healthcare services in Swedish. You look at the Sami population. There are about 9 different Sami languages spoken across the whole of Norway, Sweden, Finland and into Russia. But yet, in looking at the Finnish situation, there's only one doctor who speaks one of the Sami languages. And so you can immediately see the difficulty that those people will have in receiving services. We already know that, for example, older folk who might be developing dementia find it difficult to continue to speak in the second or third languages. They will tend to revert back to their mother tongue. So again, it's very much a matter of saying, come on, if you as a local authority are charged with providing services to your people, please make sure that they are in the languages which the people need or want to use. And what we're also saying to member states is, look, forget the difficulties that languages can bring. Look at it from the provision of services and what the local people need, and free up the local authorities to make their decisions about how they can provide their services in the appropriate languages.
So rather than to think that this is the challenge to have the diverse languages, let's try to find the advantages to have different languages. And when we talk on that, the global issue is migrants and refugees, the situation in the hosting countries, and maybe on the other hand we can call all of them like a minorities and the rights of minority. How could you link this issue with these kind of groups?
Well, this is exactly why we think it's a decision that shouldn't be taken at national level. It's a decision that should be taken at local level, because it's where those individual pockets of communities are. That's where you need to decide what languages you need to speak, whether they are ancient European languages or whether they happen to be languages associated with migrants. So, for example, the place I represent, Cheshire West and Chester, Cheshire is a very interesting county. It's got a very vibrant food economy. And we have had road signs in Polish sometimes to make sure that the Polish drivers on our roads can drive safely. And if you approach it from that point of view and you say, this is actually, in that particular case, about safety and making sure that people stay safe, there's no objection in my mind to having road signs in Polish if there is a significant number of Poles driving on English roads that need to understand exactly what's going on. In that sense, it's common sense, isn't it? And we're trying to get to a situation where the decisions are taken by the local authority about what makes sense for them in their location, and try to move away from situations where member states, through perhaps constitutions or other laws, are actually saying, no, you can't provide services in a particular language. I was very struck, as you know, I've just come back from Turkey, where we observed the Turkish elections, and across the Turkish state, all electoral material was simply in Turkish. Now, whether you're looking at the Kurdish minority, whether you're looking at the Greek minority, the Armenian minority in Turkey, you can add to the list. You can see if you wanted to ensure that everybody participated in democracy fairly and equally, that you would be providing the electoral information in the various languages which were required. And this is what this report's all about. It's actually saying to local authorities and to member states, come on, up the game. Let's make sure that everybody living in our particular areas can be fully can fully engage with democracy and also receive services the best way we can. There is absolutely no way that we can provide an interpreter for everybody. There's absolutely no way that you're able to provide every single language imaginable. And that's why this assessment process that we recommend for local authorities is so important. It's let the local authority decide what makes sense in their locale.
So it's the part of the human rights and also part of the social cohesion, maybe, if you understand.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I would far rather, and I'm sure everybody would far rather have fully engaged citizens participating in democracy, enjoying the benefits of the state, being looked after by the state. How are you going to do that? You have to be able to communicate, and communication comes down to language.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rapporteur.
Thank you very much.